Go live. Good day, beautiful, possible, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Remember, you're good-looking because you're always looking for and finding the good. That's why you tuned in consciously and conscientiously to Hug America podcast with your humble host, Barry Shore, and our wonderful, amazing partner, the greatest storyteller in America, Neal Foard. That's with an A,
Good morning.
F-O-A-R-D.
Always
And
so
if
nice
those
to
of
see
you
your
who are
smiling face.
watching, you get a special treat because you have me in my what we call my Canfield shirt, and you have Neal in his cockpit, which you seen that it's called a cockpit. We'll have to talk about that one day, with headphones and jacket, and he's looked like he could go over the hump, and that's an inside
Oh
thing.
my God. Yeah, Burma.
Yeah, inside baseball stuff for those who love reading and understand life and such like that. So we're going to be discussing something really wondrous today, and part of it is because I was thinking about the stuff that's happening in the world and the things that everybody gets on their social media, which almost always tends toward the negative, meaning war and destruction and hatred and such. And who needs that? It's like going out and getting splashed with mud and not having the ability to get a shower or a bath. So we like here on Hug America to bring to the world joy, happiness, peace, and love. And our topic today is going to be the following. Laughter, but not laughter from me or even Neal. I'm going to try and tickle him, reach over through the Zoom and tickle him, but the laughter of children. And when I say children, by definition, it's under double digits. So under 9, certainly. And some of the best ages, in my humble opinion, are somewhere between 3 and 8. Just because, at 3 years old already, there's something happening. And by 8 years old, there's still this what we call an SOW, the sense of wonder in the world. And then when kids laugh, it's just, not only is it loving and infectious and adorable, it is truly life affirming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a wonderful handoff to my dear beloved partner here, Neal, and ask him, Neal, you have such a repertoire of stories. You have a story that you could either make up or is true or relating to kids and laughter.
Yeah, I'll tell you. This is a true story. I when I was a young father and my son was all of about, let's say he was 6 and my little girl was 4. I was a kind of a stress monkey. When you're a dad, you are conscious of the fact that you're responsible for these little people. And we went to Disney World in Florida, the 4 of us, with the car seats and the travel, and the expense and the tickets. And Barry, you can imagine, I'm going into the park and I am a stress monkey. I'm grinding my teeth over how much it costs, and I'm trying to make sure that everybody's got everything they need. And I'm a little worried. You're in a crowded place. You're worried that your kids are going to get separated from you. And just in general, the scowl on my face is abundant. My little girl really dislikes it when I get angry. And so I said to her, your assignment is to make sure that you tell me when I'm starting to get that way, and I'll stop. So very, very sweetly, she would say, Dad, you're doing it again. Okay. And then Barry, I don't know if you had this experience, but when a spouse tells you to calm down, it has the opposite effect. It's like, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down. It's just doesn't produce the same emotion. But when your child says, Dad, you're doing it again, somehow that is the key. Okay. So we are going to Disney World and we are all going through the turnstiles. And like I say, I'm doing my usual thing, which is the scowl on my face as I'm handing out the tickets and everybody's going through. Bing, bang, boom, everybody goes through. And then when it's my turn to go through the turnstile, it locks up on me. And I turn to the ticket taker like, what the hell, dude? Okay, so I just give him this look like, hey. And he says, close, so nobody else hears, I'm not letting you in until I see you smile.
Woo! I love
it. Well, you know, and this, unfortunately for him, my reaction was very much like my spouse telling me to calm down. I looked at him like, are you serious right now? And I gave him one of these, one of these smiles like, it's all teeth and it's no emotion. Right? And he goes, hey, everybody's going to have a wonderful time in there. Trust me, the kids are going to love it. But they will have a much better time if they know you're having fun. And he really defused the bomb. I looked at him and I go, bro, I don't think wiser words have ever been spoken to a father. So he lets me through. I give him a real good smile because I meant it, because he was right. He lets me through. Barry, I took about maybe 6 or 7 steps and I turned around and he was still looking at me, right? And I gave him one of these, I gave him
two thumbs up.
Yeah, and I was just so grateful. Okay, so then we go through the park, and the next thing I looked at my little girl, and I had that big smile on my face, and she beamed, that I was happy, that like because her assignment had been to make sure that I wasn't upset. And then I realized, oh my Lord, I put all that weight on her. Like, instead of just enjoying herself, she was trying to make sure I wasn't freaking out. Right. So then I realized, oh no, Barry, my job is to make sure, not to give her the assignment of making sure I'm not a tool. My job is to make sure that she's having fun. And that really turned those Disney people, for whatever the company does, those people that work at that park, those are just the most wonderful, smart, engaged, entertaining, lively showbiz folk. And I just love them.
So on that high note, I'm going to mention that I have a wonderful true story also to relate. And mine is from a different perspective. And everybody, I think, will appreciate this and laugh and such. So Neal was just telling you from a father's perspective. And his personality is that he said, a stress monkey. My personality is a bit different. And I am a grandfather. So I recently, I was with my 6-year-old and 4. You just mentioned 6 and 4. I have 2 grandsons, a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. And I had them for the day. This is just a few days ago. This is just so wonderful. And everything about it, from my perspective, was, yes, let's have fun and we're going to do things. And I told their father where I'm going to bring them. And I told the kids where we're going to go. And okay, they were primed. My 6-year-old, interestingly enough, he was really into dinosaurs and a little bit into dragons. So one of the things I told him, and specifically, the 4-year-old was listening, he wasn't able to really ingest it all. I say, wow, Moshe, that's his name, Moshe. We're going to go, I'm going to take you to see a really big dragon. Huge dragon, and in its claws, one of its claws, it's holding a magnificent large. So get ready. So he looked at me and he said, that's wonderful. And then he said the following words, oh, but it's not real. Right. And then I laughed and I said, well, you get ready. It is real. So the first place we went, just before we went to see the dragon, we went to eat something, had a little bit of pizza and such, walk into the pizza place, and it happens to be that this is a week that all the schools in our area are on winter break. So we walk into the pizza place, my 6-year-old, my 4-year-old, myself, and my assistant, because he's called the captain, he drives the car. And the place is just filled with kids running around and parents and food on the floor and all kinds of stuff. And I'm loving it. And it happens to be that I know most of the people there. So what we start doing is giving out keep smiling cards to people. And it was just great. So I asked Moshe and his brother Benny, here, I gave them each cards to give out to people. And dutifully, can you imagine this, Neal? These little tiny beings went around to people one at a time, giving out. This one gave out a keep smiling card. This one gave out a smile card. And the other smiles on the back reads, seeing miracles in life every day. And they just did it because why not? And people, they're hugging him and loving him. Okay. Then we drive now to the place where the dragon is. Now, where's the dragon? In the Bellagio Hotel.
Mm.
So if anybody's ever been to Las Vegas, and we have probably millions of people that are listening that have been to Las Vegas, and if you ever know or heard of or been to the Bellagio, you know it's one of the more interesting hotels in the Strip, and it's really a magnificent place. And they installed, because it's Chinese New Year, and it's the year of the dragon. It's hard to tell you other than just because I'll use too many hyperboles, or you think it'd be hyperbole, but it is truly a wonderland to walk through. And it's not small. It's at least 300 feet long and at least 150 feet wide. And it's just this remarkably huge dragon. It made out of wood and such, or plastic, but painted gold, with the claw holding this gigantic pearl. And the story, here's the story. I told this to Moshe. You know what kind of dragon this is? This is called a kind dragon.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because the story is very, very quickly that a boy found a pearl, a large, magnificent pearl. And he understood, even though just a boy, that if he ran home and told his parents, and then his parents told other people, everybody found out about it, you know what's going to happen? The emperor will take the pearl.
Oh, right on.
And well, who knows what the emperor will do? So what did he do? He made a prayer, and he asked, how can this pearl be used for good? And guess what happened? I mean, I'm tearing up as I'm saying the story. I'm reading it to my kids. And he said, a dragon appeared and swooped down from the sky and communicated with the boy and said, I will guard the pearl, and it will transform me into the kind dragon. And that's just the middle of this exhibit. On either side, you have bridges, Chinese bridges, and because the Chinese do things I love it, elegant, and animatronics of things moving and such like that. And I'm walking around with the kids. I'm telling you something, I was more amazed even than my 6 and 4-year-old, but they loved it. They were just, I'm telling you, laughing. That's why I said about this session today, it's about laughter, pure laughter. And I knew you were going to ask me.
Go please finish. I'm so sorry.
I knew you were going to ask me, say, okay, Barry, you love acronyms. What's the acronym for pure? And I was thinking about it. Pure, when it comes, especially with kids, stands for pleasant, undiluted, rejuvenating energy.
That's good. Hey, I want to make a comment about your story,
please.
Which is just beautiful. I love storytelling. I'm a sucker for a really good salesman. I'm a sucker for children just like you, because of that energy, because of that positive energy. And if you go and you see that dragon at the Bellagio, it is a spectacle. Everything they do there, I have to hand it to the Bellagio. It's woo, that place is amazeballs. I mean, that everything from the fountain to the Cholula, glass, it's just everything.
Yes,
okay,
he said the Cholula glass on the ceiling. It is wondrous.
Wondrous. Exactly. When you go into the Bellagio, not to make this into a commercial for the Bellagio, but I do respect so much that when you go in there, the visit is worthwhile because they have taken the pains to create a kind of, it's Rome. It's Rome at the height of the, and I don't mean like Caesar's Palace. I mean just that they have decided to make it a destination that is Wondrous. Okay, but let's go back to your story.
One moment. I want to interrupt you because we have something wonderful. This is the Hug America podcast, and we have sponsors that we vet, and we urge you to patronize them because they're worthwhile for you. They help the show, and we're going to go to a quick break. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes. Don't go away. There's more Neal Foard and Barry Shore on the other side of these commercials, so get ready.
Any business leader who has stood in front of potential investors can tell you, creating a vivid, compelling vision of the future can be the difference between bankruptcy and billions. If you can move people with words, you can practically will things into existence. Something that seems impossible can be made to seem inevitable. But not with bullet points, with a well-crafted and well-told story. I spent 30 years in advertising, creating stories for giant brands, universities, and governments, and changing people's hearts and minds. And over those years, I accumulated a treasure chest of insights about how to entertain and inspire and move people. And I think I can teach you. Can you think of a tool more powerful than human speech? See how your value changes when you start to master the oldest human art form. What if you could shop at your favorite local stores, swipe your current credit card, and get extra cashback rewards? And what if you could also have donations sent to your favorite cause at no extra cost to you? What if this amazing program was absolutely free and very simple to set up? Well, What If is here. Welcome to Einstein Cares, where your everyday shopping gives you and your favorite cause extra money. It's fast, it's easy, and effortless.
Good day, beautiful, bountiful, beloved, immortal beings, and good-looking people. Maybe you're good-looking. Because always looking for and finding the good. We found good in abundance. Our cup runneth over with good. Neal Foard, America's greatest storyteller, and your humble host, Barry Shore, the ambassador of joy. Neal, tell us another story, please.
Yeah. Well, I first of all, I want to say, I wish I could just do this all day with you, Barry. Whenever we say goodbye at the end, I'm always like, oh. Anyway, hey, listen, so here's what I want to do. I want to focus back on the story of the dragon that you were talking about before. And particularly when it came to the kids being there with you. And here's what I want to point out. The Bellagio does these things that are spectacle, the beautiful installations, the beautiful artwork, and so forth. But what you did for the kids was you created meaning. The dragon is just a piece of art. It's just an installation until you tell them the story. And here's what you did for them. You gave them a lesson. You gave them a moral. You gave them a guide. It was a way to frame how to live in the world. The little boy didn't take the pearl and exchange it into money so they could buy stuff for themselves, nor did he do something silly like brag to everybody that he had it, which of course is dangerous. What he did was on behalf of everyone, he made a prayer to do good with it somehow. And his prayer was answered in the form of a dragon who was transformed. You see this, that story is profound because the dragon might be dangerous or it might be helpful. And it was the little boy's intention that turned the dragon helpful, that transformed the energy, the chi of the dragon, into a benefit to humanity. There is so much contained in that story. The story is so easy to repeat. It's so easy to remember. But for those children that you told that story to, who will remember that story, they walked away with about 4 important lessons. Don't brag for fear that it will draw the attention of ill people. Don't think about only yourself. Be careful with objects of value. All of these things, Barry, You communicated to a 4 and a 6-year-old with a very clever delivery system, and you chose to take this occasion of seeing a spectacle, but you added meaning. That's why when you go to see American football or you go to a baseball game, it's always about more than the game. It's about togetherness and sharing something common. And you know how with all of our political division, you get 2 Detroit Lions fans together to go see the playoffs. And I don't care what their political orientations are. Momentarily, they will be brothers to the core. Right?
I'm so glad you mentioned Detroit Lions. My thought on the Detroit Lions for the moment is the Chicago Cubs. It must be what, 6 years ago, 5? I forget when.
Where they had broken the curse
right. They went, let's say, 50, 60, 70 years without winning the World Series, and they were the Chicago Cubs. Detroit Lions. I read the Wall Street Journal where I get my information about sports, and I think he said it was 19. It was the year before the NFL and the AFL merged. That's how long ago it was that the Detroit Lions were even a contender, let alone maybe they're poised to be. They're not there yet to be on the Super Bowl field.
They might make it. They got to go to San Francisco.
That's the whole point. They might make it. Yeah. Whereas you think Detroit Lions, okay, that's just a football team. They've been the T word. See, one of the things that I have found, and I get a lot of comments about Hug America podcast. People love this podcast, and we urge you, by the way, share this with 5 people. I didn't say 50 or 100. You want to do that? That's up to you. Urge you to share with 5 people. That way we'll touch somewhere between 12 and 20,000 people, because we have, thank God, thousands of listeners right now. Share it with 5 people because it's uplifting. It's wonderful. It's dynamic and you love it. Put it in your, what do you call it? I was going to say day timer. Put it in your phone, because it's the second and fourth Thursday of every month for the rest of your life. You hear that? Second and fourth Thursday for the rest of your life, because this is the Hug America podcast. You can't get this stuff anywhere else. These are pearls of wisdom. That's what you want. You want the pow in your life. So I urge you, everybody, do this. As I said,
you're a good pitch man.
The Detroit Lions, there's the Chicago Cubs, even my great Boston Red Sox, but they're already considered now a winning team, even though this year they had one of the worst records in baseball, and the absolutely worst. No, there was one team that was even worse record in football. When the Patriots going from the heights to the valley. It's just and yea, of course, the 23rd Psalm, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Well, that's where the Patriots are these days. So it's really a fascinating process, this whole idea of the T word, transformation. And yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I'd like to just play one more. I was going to call it a 45, the A side of the 45, regarding kids and laughter and such like that.
Yes.
So this is a short one, but it goes to your point about stress monkey. So again, I'm not. And one of the things that would happen when my son was 6. So this is 30 plus years ago. Well, we went to New York, my wife and I, and my son, and we have a lot of relatives there. So we went to Ellis Island to visit the Statue of Liberty, which is just an amazingly wonderful thing to do.
Yeah.
And instead of holding on to my son or putting him one of those leashes, I'm not a big fan of that. I just let him run. About 5 minutes after I let him run, my wife asked me, "Where's Ezra?" I said, "I don't know. He's around someplace." "What do you mean he's around someplace?" She went ballistic. "What do you mean he's around someplace? Where is he? Go find him." It took me, you ready for this? It took me 10 minutes to find him.
Uh-oh.
It was, yes, he's just a kid. He was just wandering around. It was great. It's like after about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I had to call out, "Hi, Ezra, anybody seen this little boy, blonde hair?" And everything. 10 minutes. He was fine. He was just looking around and doing what kids do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. I was a little bit nervous because I was nervous because of my wife. But I'm going to just tell you what happened, and this is the upshot of it all. She comes over to me. She was ready to hit me with a frying pan.
Sure.
And she didn't have it in her purse. She picked up a piece of lumber that was on the ground. She was about to hit me. And then she saw Ezra, so she dropped it and she ran over and hugs him and such that. And what is he doing? He's laughing. He says, Ma, he calls her Ima. Ima, oh, it was so much fun. Look at this, how big it is. And he was laughing, and it completely disarmed her. Completely disarmed her. So the power of laughter, especially from a kid, when it's pure, it's just so wonderful. Yeah. It's transformational.
Do you know there's an actual among the Marshal Service of the United States? They're responsible for retrieving fugitives, so people have escaped from prison and so on. Among the Marshal Service, they have a phrase that they call the pacifying effect of children. You can have a guy who had spent a life of crime, but as soon as he has children, I think the ratio is something like 80% of them never commit another crime.
Woo!
That these are guys that have been on the run for 20 years, and then they find them in Phoenix or Green Bay, and they've had a very positive life ever since their life of crime because they had kids. And they say that the marshals are actually quite reluctant to, when they find out these guys have kids, they're actually reluctant to bring them in because they have a very, very high probability they're never going to do anything bad again. What's the point of this? We're just going to drag him back into the system. That's going to create a train wreck in its wake. And it's because children are so wonderful that people literally change, like the dragon. They change into better people because of children.
And this is so life affirming. Thank you.
Well, that's how it goes. My guess is that Ezra inside Ellis Island was in pretty much zero danger. I'll tell you this quick story about my own experience on the streets of New York. So I for years I was a Californian. I grew up in the Bay Area. I moved out to New York, and for a time, everybody used to come up to me on the street and ask me for directions. And it was, I was getting called, asked for directions 4 times a week. And I was only too happy to give it because the West Village was impossible to navigate. So then I started to notice over time, I was getting less and less of that until finally it dropped to zero. And I thought, oh, I must be becoming a New Yorker, right? I don't look friendly. I don't look approachable. Okay, so one day I'm on the street corner, and it's a very typical New York winter's day, bright sunshine, cold as the dickens. I'm in a business suit. The guy next to me is all hip-hopped out. And then the woman over here, you know how it is, Barry, on the streets of New York. It's like, here's a Hasidic Jew, and then here's a Muslim, and then, it's a Mormon missionary. It's New York, right? It's a cross-section of humanity.
That's the beauty of it.
It's the beauty of it. It's so wonderful, right? Okay, then all of a sudden I notice there is a 3-year-old child by herself walking down the street. And my instant reaction is terror, followed by, I'm leaping forward to protect this child. And then I notice the whole sidewalk has gone into Secret Service mode. Got to protect the president. All of us. The guy next to me, we're all surrounding this child like musk oxen, protecting our kids from wolves. And then, and so I'm looking for wolves, and no, the whole city street was galvanized to help. And then finally, the little kid's mother comes racing out of the subway in abject terror that her child has been abducted or is in danger. And I thought to myself, I remember this vividly, thinking, lady, that kid is safer on this city street than anywhere else on earth. She is protected by a cordon of New Yorkers. They would rather die than let this child be harmed. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, Barry. The smallest woman on the street, you better watch out. She will be a honey badger to protect this kid. Okay, so here's what happened. So we get everybody's all fine, and the woman goes off with her kid. I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. I felt so good about us.
Okay, let's bottle that, because what you just articulated, that powerful emotion of goodness infused you. Why leave that?
Right.
And by the way, on that high note, because we have a certain amount of time together, everybody. On that high note, we want to infuse everybody with that same kind of feeling of joy, happiness, peace, and love. And we do every show. At the end of the show, we do a hug that extends throughout the world. So on the count of 3, everybody, remember, hug stands for heartfelt, unlimited giving, which he just did. 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody, we'll see you again on the next one. Put it in your, whatever you call timer and such, second and fourth Thursday of every month, rest of your life. Make it a great one. Best wishes.